Good morning. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here today. My name is Kirsten, and I'm excited to share the outcomes of a project that addresses a significant challenge in our educational system: the inconsistent implementation of inclusionary practices in K 12 classrooms. This work stems from my passion for creating equitable learning environments, especially for students with disabilities from marginalized racial backgrounds. During this presentation, I'll take you through my approach from identifying the problem to implementing and refining solutions through targeted professional development. We'll explore the importance of universal design for learning and culturally responsive teaching strategies, the methodology used, and the outcomes achieved. By the end, I hope you'll see how strategic interventions can transform classrooms into equitable spaces for all learners. Inclusionary practices are a cornerstone of equitable education. However, our district has faced significant challenges in ensuring these practices are consistently implemented across classrooms. This inconsistency disproportionately impacts students with disabilities, especially those from marginalized racial backgrounds, creating barriers to their academic success and social emotional growth. This problem is deeply significant because it reflects systemic inequities and highlights gaps in teacher preparedness, resource allocation, and policy alignment. For students, this means limited access to grade level content and supportive learning environments. For teachers, it presents challenges in meeting diverse student needs without sufficient training or resources. Addressing this issue is not just about improving outcomes for students with disabilities. It's about fostering a culture of equity and inclusion in our schools. This project was designed to tackle these barriers head on. To address this problem effectively, it was essential to map out the current processes involved in implementing inclusionary practices. This process map provides a clear visualization of the workflow and highlights key inefficiencies. For example, one major issue is the lack of comprehensive teacher training on inclusive strategies. Additionally, collaboration between general and special education staff is fragmented, often leading to inconsistent approaches. Resource limitations, such as the availability of assistive technologies and culturally relevant curricula, further compound these challenges. This process map served as a foundation for identifying critical gaps and informed my subsequent analysis, including the root cause analysis you'll see next. By visualizing these inefficiencies, I could better prioritize interventions to target the most pressing issues. Using this fishbone diagram, I conducted a thorough root cause analysis to understand the underlying factors contributing to the inconsistent implementation of inclusionary practices. I identified several key categories. People. This includes limited teacher training, biases about students with disabilities, and insufficient administrative support. Processes. Professional development opportunities are inconsistent and monitoring systems are weak, which makes it hard to ensure accountability. Materials. Classrooms often lack essential resources, including assistive technologies and culturally relevant teaching materials. Environment. Many classroom setups are not conducive to inclusion, and there's a broader school culture that doesn't always prioritize equity. And systemic factors. These include inequitable resource allocation, gaps in policy alignment, and systemic racism that impacts classroom dynamics. This analysis revealed the depth of the problem and the systemic nature of the barriers guiding me in designing targeted interventions. The fishbone diagram connects the root causes we identified to actionable interventions. It serves as a blueprint for my change strategy. The primary drivers that we'll focus on are building teacher capacity to implement inclusionary practices, encouraging collaborative practices between educators, and aligning support systems and policies with equity goals. The secondary drivers to support these goals through targeted professional development tailored to teachers' needs, providing accessible resources such as assistive technologies and training materials, and establishing structured collaboration opportunities between general and special education staff. By aligning these drivers with root causes, I ensured that our interventions were strategic, actionable, and directly addressed the challenges that were identified. Building on my root cause analysis, I developed a driver diagram to connect these causes to actionable interventions. My primary drivers, again, focus on teacher capacity, collaborative practices, and alignment of policies with equity goals. These are supported by those secondary drivers, including professional development, accessible resources, and structured collaboration. This visual representation highlights the strategic connection between the challenges and the solutions, ensuring that my approach directly addresses the core issues. With this framework in place, I began testing our interventions through the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle, or PDSA. To test and refine my interventions, I employed the PDSA cycle framework. This approach allowed us to pilot changes, collect data, and make iterative improvements. In the first cycle, we delivered a 6-hour professional development session to focus on UDL and culturally responsive teaching. Teachers received follow-up support through instructional coaching. As you can see highlighted on this graphic at the very top, you'll see where the cycle begins and is highlighted as plan, do, study, reflect, and act. And then along the diagram, there were certain factors to consider, including access to inclusionary practice gaps, teacher self-assessment, student feedback, PD sessions, a data tracking system, professional development plans, coaching support, peer observations, and administrative observations. During this PDSA cycle, we gave consideration to identifying the practice gaps, designing professional development, implementing PD sessions, utilizing the data tracking system, assessing teacher self-assessments as well as student feedback, and classroom observations, and making in-the-moment adjustments to PD as we reflected on and prepared to repeat the process. The data collected during the PDSA cycles provides a critical insight into the effectiveness of our interventions. Key findings include a 75% increase in teacher confidence following professional development. Observations showed that 55% of classrooms implemented at least one inclusionary strategy. Student engagement measured through surveys rose by 62%, with many students reporting feeling more supported in their learning. To communicate these trends, we used run charts to visualize progress over time. These visuals helped us identify not only areas of success, but also where further steps and support was needed. For example, while teacher confidence increased significantly, classroom adoption rates showed room for improvement. This informed our next steps and refinements. To scale and sustain these improvements, we're implementing a train the trainer model to expand professional development district-wide. Additionally, we're embedding inclusionary practices into district policies and teacher evaluations to institutionalize these changes. Coaching systems and ongoing monitoring will provide the necessary support to maintain progress. However, I anticipate challenges, including resistance to change and resource limitations. To address these, we're focusing on clear communication, stakeholder engagement, and strategic resource allocation to ensure long term success. In conclusion, this project demonstrates how targeted professional development, supported by systemic change, can address long standing inequities in education. By equipping teachers with strategies rooted in UDL and culturally responsive teaching, we've laid the groundwork for creating inclusive classrooms that meet the needs of all students.